the first question for the flagship is that basically please define what is the flagship and what is the meaningful of those flagship in your own technology field, but also the Finland. If you can start, Kai.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think it is very much now for AI, high-level AI research in Finland, and because as you know, the best people are attracted of other very good people, and so it's a must really for us to attract people from Finland, but also from abroad, to really focus and bring together the best skills we have here, and then of course when that has been done, then the products, the results must be rolled out very rapidly to other sectors, so to industry and other sectors of society.
Okay, maybe from my point of view, so Juha, I think you framed quite well what the flagships are about. Maybe one point, to kind of like a general point, is that I think that these flagships are kind of wanted to have, or to be the, let's say an advertising tool, even to kind of advertise the Finnish research globally, and to make it visible and make it kind of acknowledgeable. So that's something what the Academy of Finland is I think hoping that will become the kind of shining stars of the Finnish research, which can be kind of marketed to global audiences. And from Finsair's point of view, I see that Finsair, as Kai also mentioned, will become this hub of bioeconomy, materials bioeconomy research. There have been kind of similar things before, but I think this is now happening very well at this point, and we have great collaboration ongoing now at Aalto and VTT, and also with other stakeholders, and we are pushing to kind of get all the actors and all the stakeholders to kind of join this movement with us. So I think that's the main thing.
All these flagships, when they are appointed, there were two criteria: science and impact. So all the 6 flagships, they are top in science, and they are also very top in making impact. So when you collaborate with this flagship, you can know that they are the best things in the whole country. But it does not stop only in Finland. For example, in our case, the 6G flagship, we have taken the leading role globally in defining what 6G is. We know that other domain regions are catching up, but really Finland is taking leading role through these flagships in their respective fields.
Okay, so I would say that first, it's about acknowledgement and about the visibility, because the photonics, we still suffer from the fact that there's no photonics industry. So it's always kind of hidden behind all the marvelous other applications. So we are still suffering from the fact that we have to keep on saying that, okay, what is photonics and so on. But one thing is, what it means for us is also that usually our collaboration is based on 1-2 year projects, and it's a very short term, and then you have to start fighting and applying for new funding. This now we have an 8 year, so we can really focus on building long-term collaboration with the main parties and so on, and this will be really fruitful, not only for our research but also for the society with different kind of impact and so on. So this kind of long-term development that we can finally make.
Okay, that's please continue, Jyrki, because I have a continue question for you. That okay, there is a long-term that kind of cooperation and research. So what happened? So after 8 years, what is the result? So how the Finland is changed after 8 years when the flagship program is ready? So please.
So when I will be here 8 years from now, you will actually see less slides from me because I don't have to explain you anymore what is photonics, because every Finn knows what photonics is and how it's important. So I can skip that part. Okay, but seriously, I think that the important thing is, of course, that we hope that we are able to bring new solutions for many things that we need to solve. So whether it's energy, whether it's a new materials, we try to help these other flagships as much as possible, being as an enabling technology. So I hope that there will be more and more applications, more and more solutions to the big things, and we try to do this with a light.
Yeah. Hopefully 8 years from now, the digital infrastructure will not be the limiting factor anymore. Like, hopefully in the future everything can be connected wirelessly and huge amounts of data can be transferred wirelessly. We saw all these different applications, the sensors, the cameras. If you want to transfer real-time data from those devices, if there are drones flying somewhere or wherever they are, that's not yet possible in the way that we would want it to be. So hopefully 8 years from now, the infrastructure is there that can support all these applications.
From Finster's point of view, maybe when thinking about the market, how it will look like in 8 years, I think we will see more and more, let's say, spin-offs or startups, more companies looking for, and also big companies, of course, looking for sustainable alternatives to their materials. So we will see more and more companies such as Sulapak or Spinnova emerging and taking this, focusing on the sustainability views. And let's say from science-wise or technology-wise, it's difficult to say. We have many topics, but maybe one thing that could be lifted is the cellulose-based fibers, so wood-based textiles. I think that will be a step closer to commercial realization and getting a reasonable kind of step in the market. And from our flagship point of view, I would say that we will be a leading global player among with the Swedish counterparts or Canadian counterparts and the counterparts in Japan. So we are really among the top globally also.
Yeah, very much the same for us. As I pointed out, that Finland, we have a very high potential to gain. We are such a country that will, if we succeed, really take advantage of what's happening in AI and in ICT. And that we will then see after 8 years if we have succeeded there, if we have succeeded to grow our national product because of this and also rise employment. And one thing there is, if you go a bit outside this top research, it's very important also to have a broad awareness and a certain kind of basic skills in AI. And we are very good, well on our way there. I think many of you have maybe already taken the course Elements of AI that the University of Helsinki, that is a partner here, Timo Roos, professor there, has initiated, and even President Niinistö has rolled in, is taking that course. I don't know if he really if he have finalized it, but there are, I think, 60,000 already that have finalized that course, and the aim there is to educate 1% of the Finnish population, or in AI. And now I heard from Timo last week that they have a new goal, and that is to educate 1% of the global population in AI. And it has already been translated to several languages, and they are really going on and rising the the bar there. And so that's also an important aspect.
Okay. I'm wondering that are those flagships, are you competitors, or how you can see your position? Are you compete to each other? Are you cooperate? How it goes? How you see the situation, the different flagships to each other? If you can, Kai, start.
I absolutely see. Okay, maybe there is, of course, like always, we are trying to impress with big figures, and that's natural. But I think we are clearly supporting each other. A lot of synergies were already pointed out. For example, from our side, we have, of course, the data is where our area, but we have to get the data for our algorithms. Of course, that's we need the sensors from the photonics, but not only we have to create the data, we have also to distribute the data, and there is where the 5G, 6G coming in. For example, where should the computation be? It's very much now in the cloud. If we are using Google Home, for example, and talking to the loudspeakers, then it sends my talk to the data center, maybe here in Finland or somewhere else, and then back. But I think in the future, a lot of the speech recognition, and the arguing power and such will be in the loudspeaker. So it's called edge AI. So we have a lot of common things with the data telecommunication part. And then, of course, the material research, you already had a slide on how to use image processing there. It's also a question there to speed up the development. I think there is a big role for AI to give tools for the researchers to do things much faster than before. For example, I understand that there are about 3 million publications in material science, and it's coming on many every year. How can a researcher really scan everything there? So that's one place where we can have like Watson type. IBM Watson is already doing that mostly for medical research, but also for material research, and really to use the machines there to maybe develop a new material 10 times. And IBM are talking about 100 times faster than currently.
Yes, definitely. So I also see no competition between the flagships. So I think in the coming years we should kind of look into the ways how we can actually collaborate now, as kind of we have settled in or have the structures kind of set to these flagships. So we have been already kind of initiating some discussions with different flagships, and I think that should be we should continue on that track.
I think there was pretty fierce competition in the application phase. So before we all were appointed as flagships, there was a very difficult application phase. But now that we all have this established position, then there is no need for competition anymore. But it's more about sharing the best practices. It's the first time that there are these kind of, in academic research in Finland, that there are these kind of big programs, flagships. And that's a new thing for all of us. So even establishing how these should operate, it's been a difficult thing and a big effort. And then sharing the best practices among the flagships is very helpful, so that we don't have to invent everything separately. So now it's more into the collaboration mode.
Yes, 8 years would be definitely too long time for competing with each other. So we really need collaboration, and it will be really the most beneficial thing what we can do. And like I said, that photonics alone would be just a nice fundamental research, and that's it. Maybe some Nobel Prizes we try to win in Finland in physics or chemistry, but that's it. So we really need collaboration with these other flagships where we can, so that we can make the applied research and really the impact applications and so on.
Okay, that sounds good that you are not compete anymore. So it's very good news. So here is in audience, there is probably people who are hearing the first time about the flagship. Of course, some of those are knowing earlier. So I would like to ask you about what is that kind of message for you from you to the audience, that what kind of cooperation you are looking for. So what kind of organization can cooperate with you?
So with us, any kind of collaboration is welcome, whether it's about other. So for example, in our case, we have four parties in there, and the photonics community is much more than that. But still, the whole photonics community is kind of, let's say, enjoying this flagship. And yeah, so when you have any kind of application in your mind, anything in your mind, as a company, as a SME, large corporation, as a research institute, as another university, you're always welcome. And basically I could list all the possible things about whether it's a contract research membership, whether it's a interim for our students, master's thesis topics, whatever. So we are open to every kind of, let's say, collaboration.
One of the best ways in my way is to have joint projects. They can be national Business Finland funded project or European EU funded project. But when you work together in a project, the academia and the industry or whoever that stakeholder is, there that real collaboration happens. We have many projects on 5G applications in verticals currently ongoing, like these industry verticals and so on. So there's information exchange between the academics and the companies, and there can be a large consortium of companies, like 20, even more companies. There we have events, workshops, meetings, and that is the place where this information sharing happens very efficiently. So, research projects.
Yes, we also welcome all kinds of companies to join Finseres. Now we have started this year building up this ecosystem of ours, and we are especially interested in getting there, let's say, the whole value chain in the materials cycle. So that's one point. Now we are maybe focusing first in the kind of, let's say, usual suspects of the big forest industry companies. So, but the whole value chain is very welcome to discuss with us and also with the other members, our other company members that we have. And also, let's say, the research institutions and organizations are very welcome to let's say, contact us and let's discuss how this collaboration will happen. We are actually establishing a collaboration mode with the let's say, other research organizations here in Finland, but also internationally. And this is something that we will actually develop now in the coming months.
Yes, very much the same. All kind, very interested in all. I'm grateful for all contacts, all collaboration modes. So if, as a company, if you have a hard problem that you want to solve, where you see that AI could have a role, so just we will find out. We have, as was on the slide, 150 professors in the flagship, and we then try to find out the best competence for solving that problem. That's in a way the contract research part. But of course, like my colleagues here said, we of course aim to leverage the academic funding. We're getting this by getting joint funding from European Union projects or Business Finland and others, and we very much welcome partners in this project. Like was said here, it's really in concrete project where you really learn to know each other and doing real cooperation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think that now it's time to the audience can make the questions. So I already noticed that Vesa have some questions. So please introduce yourself and make your question.
Vesa, CTO of Arbonaut. So I have a question for all of you. I'm a little bit of an outdoorsy guy, So, and we live in a cold country. So when I put my outdoors clothes on and I start walking in the woods, I get sweating. And then after a while I stop, it's getting cool. And when I want to sleep, it's even colder. So I'm asking, why don't we have a forest wood-based material that knows that, okay, when my boots are moving, will dissipate all the heat or store it into this wood-based material, and the sneakers would tell my clothes that, okay, now it's time to cool off. And then when I stop, the material would turn really warm. And then when it's getting night, I fall asleep under a spruce tree. It would get even warmer and make sure that I'm feeling only warmth. So why are we not having it now, and why are we not having it after 8 years?
Maybe I can start. Yeah, very good question. Thank you. So there is a lot of research efforts, of course, ongoing in these areas. So what you were describing could be, let's say, phase change materials, which, let's say, store and then dissipate heat. Incorporating those into textiles is, let's say, not as straightforward as could be imagined. They have some limitations. Let's say, how do they transform? But we have actually ongoing research on using biomaterials in phase change materials. So this is something ongoing. And of course, let's say with textiles, it's also like the humidity control is very important. So actually, a few days ago, there was a news article from Aalto University about, let's say, making water repellent textiles so that they actually the water, let's say, the humidity can go through, and then it will also repel then humidity coming from outside. So you can check that news item. It was just beginning of the month about using some cationic starch, kind of bio-friendly coating on textiles. So that's maybe one place to start looking.
I could just comment on the kind of, let's say, this commercialization point of view. So there may be already good solutions, but the important thing is also that is it economic enough? Because I would say that the most difficult customers ever are consumers, because they just follow whatever kind of advertisement and or fashion or whatever. So it's another challenge, not only just to make things happening, but also to get acceptance from the customers.
Thank you. Then we have other question.
Hello, my name is Juuso Uusimäki. I am from the University of Eastern Finland studying photonics and also from the EPIC project. My question is related to what Jyrki mentioned earlier. Are all these programs only for PhDs and research groups, or can students of lower levels, for example master's students and bachelors, also help you in these programs?
Yeah, if I start, yeah, for sure. And actually this goes even beyond. So these flagships are supposed to also make teenagers and school kids interested about the topics. So that's also one of these impact side or outreach side that we are supposed to do. So yes, it's not only about the science from postdocs and up to that.
One important part for us is this whole ICT sector is suffering from the lack of experts. So it's a big effort to educate these experts to the field, so that they are then, when these flagships end, we would have a larger number of experts. So it's really important to engage also students.
Yes, I really copy the same words as my colleagues here. We have, for example, now a master's thesis actually just started, and she started making a business roadmap, or actually a tool to identify feasible inventions from the early stage research. So this is something that we have now started with a master's thesis project.
Yes, absolutely the same. And like was said, we have really a huge need for top talent, and so we should really start in the kindergarten and then going up. But I think I remember myself the phase when you are doing your masters. That's very important, and of course it's important also to go to industry like I did myself in that stage and maybe come back. But anyhow, we should in a way be able to provide interesting topics for doing a master thesis, and also if you want really, of course, to get the person then to consider at least to do a career in research.
Okay, thank you. Then we have other question.
Hi, I'm Timo Tahvonainen from Business Joensuu. I'm a forester, so I have a question for Maria about 6G technology. So is the 6G, is it mainly for cities and factory environments, or is it coming also into the forest, and what kind of applications can you imagine for forestry?
We want that 6G comes to where it's needed, and we are worried about the 5G development. What it looks like now, that it's coming to the major cities, it's not addressing every place. Previous generations like 4G, 3G, they have had obligations to cover the whole country, but now 5G, the new licenses from last year, they have no obligations for that. So there is no must for the operators to build 5G everywhere in Finland. So most likely it will come to the major cities, not elsewhere. And we actually were promoting the approach that 5G networks should be allowed to be deployed by also local operators, different stakeholders, so that who currently run the fixed networks in different regions, they could also do 5G in their areas, but this was not accepted in Finland. It is happening in some other countries. But for 6G, it really should be so that those networks could be deployed where they are needed. And if we wait that the operators deploy them, that's not the only way to go. So it has to be made possible that they come by other stakeholders. And this is happening for the verticals, like the industry cases. Those are now happening, that those local networks are coming in some countries. Not yet in Finland, but in other countries. But for starting point for 6G, it has to be that it is deployable.
Thank you. So as I said earlier, the Forest and Photonics audience is very active, so we have still plenty of questions.
Yes, so thank you very much about the good presentation from all of you. And my name is Tuomo Visanko, representing Collective Grants. So perhaps a little bit more difficult question. So that what about some challenges and your performance also? Of course, everybody is expecting about that you can get your production project to the commercial pace. So how do you feel and see the situation when there is some claims that scientists want to study as long as possible about a certain project and they are not so interested to enter to the commercial base? And on the other hand, even when thinking even Jukka Hassisen's project, that in certain areas, even the industry, if we think about how well the pulp is doing, how big business it is and how big profit it will do. So there is a little bit conflict also that should we start to use the same raw material for some other purposes, and then that how seriously they are actually to committing themselves for certain projects.
Excellent question. So who would like to start?
Maybe I can start. Thank you. Very good question, actually. So yes, big companies are not as agile to maybe steer their operations. I mentioned maybe also before that maybe the startups will kind of be the first ones, of course, to integrate these new technologies in their products, and then slowly it will, of course, then reach bigger companies as well. But also, for example, Metsä Group now started this joint venture with the Japanese Itochu company at Äänekoski to actually produce these wood-based textiles. So this is one example of these new kinds of processes taken to the industrial levels. So, of course, there are things will not happen fast, but I was actually, just when I went to the hotel room this morning, there was a radio playing in the background, and there was news about the decline of the pulp prices, and how this affects the Finnish companies as well as others in Europe. So the prices for pulp are now going down, and also the sawmill products is actually going down because of some kind of overflow of material in the market. So I see that for big companies, this is an opportunity to jump into something that is, let's say, focusing on the future. I think the companies need to change at some point their operations, and let's say making the materials out of the same resource as pulp is being made. We don't see that it generates, let's say, problems. We see more like that we need to kind of use the raw materials more wisely. We don't need to extend the usage of the materials, so to say. We need to use them more wisely to more added value products and make the, let's say, profits from these added value products rather than from low-priced pulp.
And it's true that academics, many times academics, they do quite theoretical things, and then how that benefits really the companies. It's a big effort to bring them together, and that requires a mindset change, because if you do very, very academic things without knowing what is happening in the industry, you often miss something. So there it's important that you have the dialogue with the companies all the time, and that's very important. For example, in our field, that we have conversations with Nokia every week on what is happening.
Yes, the nice thing in the flagship is really that there's a lot of emphasis on the impact side. So it's not all about the science. It's really, we are measured how many invention disclosures, patent applications, patents, new startups are created from each of the program. So that push us to kind of, let's say, look about that we are not just making great science, but really look about the commercialization. And yeah, so that means that for example, in our flagship, we have a lot of efforts really to help new companies to be established. We try to even let's say be active in the innovation policy of different universities and so on, to kind of, let's say, remove all the hurdles that may be there even in the university level in the legislation or rules or whatever. So I would say that one thing what the government is expecting from the flagships is also to be innovative in this kind of, let's say, commercialization impact side. So hopefully we will do a good job there.
Yes, a good question indeed, and as has been said, I don't think there is any contradiction between excellence in science and the innovation and in a way the innovation in companies and utilization of the results. Because if we are not really top internationally, there are the Finnish companies are very, very internationalized, multinationals and so on. So if we are not top here in Finland, then they will go to Germany or to MIT or Berkeley or Stanford and get their competencies from there. And we have very carefully selected our focus here, and we, as we pointed out in the application, so we are comparable with Stanford and MIT and on in these certain aspects of machine learning, and that's why, and with that we think that we can, and we have already, as you saw from the companies, attracted interest from Finnish companies, but it's clear that it is, I think, maybe companies that has a bigger R&D departments, more in a way researchers themselves in-house. It's easier for them to cooperate with the professors in the FKI and so on. And therefore we need also layers that are in a way like a bit what we had at the time here in Finland, the national the top strategic initiative shock programs, where we that were company led. That is something that we are a bit thinking about. Could we, if the FKI is the spearhead on the academic level, then we have a middle layer that would be a network of companies that and of course also research units that in a way can read the market, understand what the market needs, typically led by a market leader. We had, for example, in media sector, Sanomat was a leader and Nokia was leading some shocks and so on. And then we have, in a way, for the SMEs, smaller companies, so on, there is these digital innovation hubs now that we have 2 of them in Finland. They are awarded by the European Union. 2 we have several in Finland, but 2 in AI. One is FKI, and then you have in Oulu, it's another one. And that is a bit a one-stop service, so you can come with all kind of things that are relevant to these hubs, and they are distributed regionally over the country. They are set up now, so it's a bit unclear what their role will be. But they, in the new Digital Europe program, that is the big European program, the digital innovation hubs, they will be a cornerstones in that. So you cannot really get a funding from the European Union if you are not involved with the national digital innovation hubs. So that's important to follow that development, I think, when you're talking about how to get innovation out from this research.
Okay, we have still questions here.
Thank you. I'm Juha Immonen from Tornator, the company of forestry in Finland. And I can see that we are struggling the same kind of problems in our business, that how we can connect the business and the management team and the research and innovations in the smaller level, what we are discussing about this manner and matter in Finland, how we connect the universities and research companies to the business. But how can you help us to concrete that kind of issues like digital twin, for instance? How we can describe the meaning of that kind of things to the business leaders, and how that affect, for instance, the AI, and how we develop and manage and lead the business in the future.
Yeah, digital twin. That's a very interesting, exciting concept that is extremely important for the digitalizing the industry now. That you can build a model of a process or of a device and in the production line, and that model will become more and more accurate as you get online measurements from the process. So that's I think in Finland the universities that are doing the training, they are picking up on this the new phenomenon like digital twin a lot. We have at VTT, where I'm working, we have big projects in digital twin. We are trying to, of course, to be a part of the European. There are calls now on this topic in the Horizon 2020 program, and one thing, I think all of the flagships are arranging seminars that are open for everybody. For example, the AI Day is Feeling Dipoli. Have done that for several years, and that is now coming up in the end of the 2 months again, and there will be I think presentations about current topic like digital twin. I'm not sure if it's exactly that, but anyhow, that's one way, of course, to follow the development.
Yes, so I think it needs dialogue between the companies and the research organizations. And one way is to take part in these, for example, these flagship activities. We have also actually our annual open seminar coming in the end of this month, so 31st of October. And I can invite all of you to attend that. That's in Otaniemi in the morning of 31st of October. So please join. If you want to attend, just grab me by the sleeve during the coffee break. So I'll then let you know more details about the event. So
I think that was an excellent question, because most of the activities, they are done with certain stakeholders, and then what information is shared with others, it's quite limited when it comes to academic research in this country. So I think the flagship should take an active role in there, that they provide these topical topics like the digital twin. It's a topic that many companies want to know about, and then if that information exists, that should be shared to some level to a larger audience. We publish a lot of papers, all of us, all the time, but then the format of papers, it's not readable to others. So that's not the format. But the information is being made public, but not in the format that it's easy to access. So I think that's where the flagship should take an active role in making that information available.
Yeah, so we shouldn't make, so those who are great scientists should stay as a great scientist. We are not supposed to make everybody as an entrepreneur, but we should encourage people to become entrepreneurs if they have that kind of, let's say, interest. And that's something where we can work. And I like, and it's all about the communication then, because we have to let the scientists communicate with the people who are interested about applications. We need to talk about the companies, their needs, their problems, and so on. So it's all about the communication. And I like a lot about this kind of Berkeley method, because they say that there are three kind of, let's say, key things for entrepreneurship. One thing is about, you can tell about these historical cases, what has happened in the past, what worked in the past. In some startups and companies, but you cannot copy this. You should always do things in the new way, and one of the key things are then mentoring. So encouraging people to become entrepreneur if they like to do that. So all kind of, let's say, so it's about the mentality. So to bring up the mentality, what kind of, let's say, what do you have to think, how you should approach problems and so on if you want to become entrepreneur. And the key thing is, of course, networking. And that's also what we heard about, that all the flagships try to be as active as possible on the creating the platform for networking.
Okay, we have other question.
So hello, my name is Pauliina Pikkujämsä and I'm from Business Joensuu. Business Joensuu is promoting Joensuu region for new investments and attracting new investments. And my question relates to this. So how do you see the role of flagships in attracting new investments in Finland? What kind of impact does it have? And have you set any objectives or targets related to attracting new investments?
So my understanding is that the government is really kind of advertising this flagship concept to everywhere in the world, because it's kind of new concept that you are not only investing on the great science, but also that the impact side is as important. So in that sense, let's say, the government has high expectations, and also we should also put our targets high, and yeah, definitely we hope that when the government is telling about this new concept, they will also tell about where is the greatest hubs in the world in these kind of, let's say, 6 fields, and that would also bring new investments in those areas, because the world is global. Of course, there are some people try to push things backward. But still, let's say we are working in a global world where biggest companies are making their investments in the best places in the world, and if they can choose that, and we can prove through the flagship that we have the best talents and the best technologies and ecosystems, then that would also bring new investments.
We haven't set any numerical target, but it is very important, and the government, Finland, is promoting this flagship. For example, when President Niinistö went to the US last week, he was promoting this 5G, 6G, AI collaborations between Finland and US. So Finland is using the flagships, those topics, promoting them globally. And Finland, right now, in the current status of the world, it's quite a neutral country. So in a way, we have that benefit, which we now should exploit.
Yes, definitely. I fully agree with Jyrki and Maria. So also we haven't set any like numerical targets, but of course we want to get more international. We've been trying to kind of initiate this concept of Boreal Alliance, where we kind of bring together countries from the Boreal Belt, Japan, Canada, Sweden, to initiate, first of all, research collaboration. I think this has been more like people have been in their own silos, more or less in Sweden and in Canada and so on. But we are trying to kind of build trust and build the community as a global community. And this will also then bring in new companies, international ones also. So I see that this globalization is very important for us also.
Yeah, I echo what Jyrki and Maija and Jukka said here. So it's so really Finland has several times when the ICT readiness and digital service readiness is measured between countries. So Finland has several years been in top there. So we have a very good readiness to adopt new innovations here, and I think that is one reason to invest in Finland, because you can get the barrier. We are a bit technology crazy here, to be and that's I think that is should really support that, and it was also interesting that Finland was, I think, the first country to formulate a national AI strategy. That was done already in 2017 here. So it was Minister Lintilä that headed that effort, and now, for example, in Norway, they are just, and Sweden, they are just finalizing their own agendas now, 2 years later. So that's again an example that we are really at the edge here.
Then we have one difficult question is coming.
Okay, have only been difficult questions, I think.
Good morning. My name is Jyrki Huttunen. I'm from Oplatech, a photonics company. And my question is for Jyrki. So I saw in the slides there that all these 3 other flagships had already quite many company logos, and they were talking about certain things that are already happening and will be happening with different companies. So how is this photonics flagship going to involve the companies? What kind of concrete actions will be taken, and what kind of things there will be for companies in the future from this flagship program?
Okay, good question. So one reason why I didn't show any logos is that basically, let's say, even because we work quite closely with the Photonics Finland. And there are 70 companies as members in the Photonics Finland. So I would have spent 1 or 2 slides just showing the logos of the companies. So that's a fact for in photonics, that the majority of the business is via SMEs. So 70% of the global business is via small and medium-sized companies. So what we try to offer is, of course, we try to offer these kind of thesis topics to the industry. We are launching a new thing, so-called industrial PhD, where the people can make their studies in the company and make their theses at the university. Then, of course, we have studied a lot of different kind of education now for the companies. So actually, at this very moment, there's a ZMAX course for optical design going on in the capital area for companies. So so we try to listen much more than ever the companies, what they want, what they need, and then we try to offer those kind of things. The good thing is that also the Ministry of Education is pushing us and letting us to work more, not just on the education and science part, but also on the impact side, meaning about a collaboration with the industry. And of course, we try to be innovative. So if you have some good ideas about the new ways for collaboration, just let us know, because one of the challenge and what we were told in the flagships is that we have to come up with the new things, not just to do the old things in the old way, but really about the new things. So if you have any ideas, there are only good ideas, no bad ideas. So yeah, please come and suggest.
Okay, then we have other question.
Thanks, Juha. Rob Connell, CEO of Knoll Venture. Thank you very much, everyone. I want to ask a question with regards to intellectual property rights. We've heard from the other questions in terms of how people want to access this, whether they're corporates or SMEs, etc. It's always been a tricky one as far as I can see, where we need to commercialize projects at the end of a university or research institution-led project. Open source was even mentioned today as well, but if we talk about 6G, for example, we have competing Nokia and Huawei, for example. We know that both organizations have a lot of Finns working for them, for example. So my question is, broadly, how will you make available the patents and the intellectual property that comes from your flagship projects, so that you can both protect Finnish interests and still make it widely available for an SME such as ourselves?
Yeah, that's really one of the big challenges, really, if you think about the commercialization and science. And I don't think that the government even knows what they're asking from us, because on the other side, they are pushing us for open science, open publications, open access, sharing information, and so on. But as you know, if you want to make business, you have to protect that. Otherwise, we would make the inventions here in Finland, and the commercial interest and money would go to the China or elsewhere. So we have to protect the inventions also, and I don't think that at least I don't know any good solutions on that yet. So of course we try to tell to the government that these are a little bit contradictory things, and so one thing is, of course, the key thing from my point of view is that we have to make the innovation policy as straightforward and smooth as possible at the universities and research institutes, so that let's say at the moment, so that let's say the innovations would be kind of, let's say, handled quickly. They are not kind of hurdles for making publications and so on. But yeah, you have to be very careful. We have to kind of, let's say, get the innovation people involved in the flagship, so that we are very carefully select which ones we have to protect and which ones can stay as open or can be opened later.
In our field, in the wireless communication domain, we've done a lot of innovations, and then instead of patenting them ourselves as the university, very early on we've transferred them to the companies, or one big Finnish company in particular, that then has patented it and put it forward. But now, in the case of the flagship, we are reinventing the ways how to handle IPR, because there now might be the need for getting some IPR also for the university itself. So there are these two tracks, whether the companies, we transfer them to the companies early on and they do the patenting, or then the university does it. But traditionally, it's been very difficult for universities to deal with patents. There are very few success stories in that because there are a lot of costs involved in it and risks. And now we are going through some experiences with others how they have handled it well. But this is an important thing to handle.
Yes, definitely. So basically, we are kind of limited by the rules of the funding agency when it comes to the research done with the Academy of Finland's funding, and those rules imply that the IPR is vested at the host organizations. But of course, that can then be transferred at an early enough stage to make it feasible for the companies. So there's I think no golden touch here or any kind of good solution, but this is how it is at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. If we're talking about maybe the easier part is publications and data sets and so on. So when we are operating under the grant on the Academy of Finland grant, for those money, or in other words, for taxpayer, your money, then those publications and data sets and so on that we produce for that money is open and public. That is, so we have a special appendix on that in the grant. And the same, by the way, is also for the European Union projects. And but of course, what we talked here about is also that this flagship is broader than only what we are doing for the academy money. So in fact, it's many times bigger. We have the joint funding, Business Finland and so on. And then we have contract research, like a company comes to us and want to have their problems solved. And of course, if there is IPR created there for the company's money, then typically the company is owning the IPR. And then there is the in between there when you are doing patents for in the project in your joint funding or for the not only the publication but the patent. Then there are no really good practices there. I agree with the colleagues here.
Thank you. So we have 5 minutes still time, so we have plenty of questions still. So I hope that the answers are shorter, not as shorter that Finnish Formula 1 driver answer, but maybe a little bit longer, but at least one sentence. But we have still quite questions, so please.
Yes, Tuomo Visanko. So let's keep this short. So that what about your own company? So if you have to estimate your performance and you should improve it, so that what are your, let's say, 1 or 2 key challenges or obstacles? So perhaps it's better now to exclude your top management from that, but otherwise I'm sure you are having a lot of challenges in your work.
Yeah. The challenge is to succeed here. So it's of course very. I think for us it's really to produce very excellent research results. We have talked about many other things, but really in this extremely competitive field of AI, it's really to be able to stay on the top internationally.
Yes, of course, this has been like maybe trying to run a startup or initiating something really new, because these kind of projects have not existed before this flagship program. So there has been a lot of learning in the first steps of the program. But maybe I would point out maybe communication as one of the kind of the challenges, like that there would be so much to communicate to all kinds of different stakeholders that there is kind of, maybe we are short on manpower in that sense, but this is one of the aspects that has been challenging.
one big challenge has been the recruitment of talented people, doctoral students. The ICT industry is hiring currently all the people we are educating, and then getting experts from abroad to Finland is difficult. The processing times for the residence permit or permit to work are very long, and it's difficult to attract talents to work in Finland.
Yeah, quickly too. So I would say that the innovation thing is definitely new because the impact is a new task for universities besides the education and science. So really removing hurdles and trying to find the best practices. What should be the role for example, for the universities on this innovation side? And then I would also bring up the kind of very state-of-the-art problem, and that's getting visas to our international students so that they can also come here if they want to even pay for studying here.
Okay, this is the last question from the audience at least.
Hi. Hi, my name is Ranjit. I am from the University of Eastern Finland, Forest Science Department. And basically, this may not be relevant to all of you, but I was wondering, at least in some cases, there might be some negative public perceptions. For example, in AI, the question of privacy and things like that, and also with the bioeconomy, people might be opposed to more logging, and So is there any effort in each of your silos to educate the public and to kind of fight negative perceptions, if there are any?
Yeah, there aren't that many negative things on the photonics side, except that you may get a skin cancer if you don't use a sun lotion in the summertime.
And in wireless, it's always the radiation-related things. And for that, we have the authorities in Finland who are handling that. But that comes up nowadays a lot.
Yes, for us it has been maybe the logging discussion has been kind of fierce lately. But as I mentioned also before, maybe we don't actually want to comment on the logging that much. We are not specialists in that. It's maybe Luke in Finland who's taking a leading role in that. We are maybe focusing on making the best out of the material that we have in hand. So I think we don't need to push for additional resources in that sense.
Yeah, as comes to ICT, AI and automation, there is of course the fear that the machine will take away the jobs, and so that's, and also of course a lot of other fears that we will also be outperformed of some kind of a super intelligence like the science fiction. So but as I said, it's really we have tried to put our focus on how to support and augment the human skills, not to replace them. That's and we have a special ethical program, but that has now been launched, and also one in security and privacy, and really so the AI ethics, we could discuss that for a long time, and that has been yeah. But anyhow, that is something that is considered as a strength of the Europe. Otherwise, we are a bit lagging as compared to US and Asia and China. But as comes to really doing things in an ethical way, then there is a very advanced thinking in Europe on that, and there are already developed ethical guidelines for AI that Ala Pietilä has. There is a high-level expert group on that, led by Ala Pietilä from Finland, and so that's extremely important work.